Hi everyone, it's Allie from Okay to Be Fat. So today I wanted to tell you guys a story about ADHD, kind of. No, it's totally about ADHD, but today I have come here to tell you the story of the meat car. So, because ADHD, it's funny, but it can really wreck things for you. So, the story of the meat car. So here's what happened. Okay. Josh my husband had just moved in. We had been living together for a couple of months. And, we went to the store, which necessitated, with where this grocery store is, driving the car. Now, I don't really drive. I can drive. I have a license. I know how to drive, but there's not really a reason for me to drive very much. Because I work, where I work, I can take public transportation there. And so I get a monthly bus pass, and that's mostly how I get around. And at this point, also, Josh had, he was working on his graduate degree, and mostly doing work from home. He would go into the university to teach, but he was also taking public transportation to do that. So we were using the car, but not like a lot. So we drive to the grocery store, get our groceries, put them in our nice little reusable bags, like you do. And I don't remember if we packed all the meat items in one bag or if the grocery store clerk did it. Doesn't really matter, but we have a whole bunch of groceries, a whole bunch of bags, and we have one bag that has like pork chops, and I remember the pork chops specifically, and like a couple of other things in it that were, you know, meat for cooking. And now Josh is a vegetarian now, but he wasn't then. And so we cooked, you know, we used meat to cook. We don't really do that anymore in the house, but at the time we did. So we get home, we unload all the groceries, everything's great. Go about our lives. A couple of times I think to myself, didn't we buy pork chops? And then I just kind of go, I don't know. And I forget about it, because forgetting about stuff is super ADHD. So what happened was we left a bag filled with raw meat inside our car for approximately 2 weeks. And also, detail, it was August. So just don't even think about it, and just kind of move on. And then we needed to drive somewhere. I don't remember what we were doing exactly, but it was time sensitive, so probably we were going to pick up paintings or drop off paintings for an art show. Stay hydrated, kids. So anyway, we get in the car, normal, I don't know if you can hear the cat meowing. It was, up until this point, a normal car. It was just a 4-door Toyota Corolla, just real normal car. But now it has become a meat car. Now, do we know this at the time? Not yet. Not yet. But we're about to know. So we get in the car, I'm gonna drive. And there's a period of time before it hits me what has happened. So we're driving down the block, going to make the right to turn onto a more main road. And as we're driving the block, I start saying, like chanting, something is wrong. 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 And then I pull the car over. Josh, at this point, does not understand what is going on, but the smell has hit me. It smells like death, essentially. I've never smelled anything like that before in my life, and I hope I never, ever smell anything like it again. And then I pull the car over, the smell has hit me, and my brain, it like clicks, right? Like the pieces like click together, like Legos coming into place. And I think, oh God, we left a bag of raw meat in this car from the grocery store that we went to 2 weeks ago. Oh no. I don't have time to say anything. I don't say this out loud. I just make the connection. So I pull the car over, leap out of the car, run around the back, pop the trunk. I should say, it's about to get really gross. So if you have a thing with like bugs, you might want to skip forward a little bit. So pop the trunk open, see the bag, and I am hit in the face with a wave of flies because the meat has started to decompose and it has generated a colony of flies. I start screaming. Not words. I'm not screaming words anymore. I'm just screaming noises. Ah! Just screaming, screaming, screaming. I grab the bag, right? I see that there's a garbage can on the side of the road. I scoop up the bag, run over to the garbage can and launch it in there, and then run back to the car. Josh has now gotten out of the car, coming around to the back. He understands that something's wrong, but he hasn't put it together yet. And I am just screaming, the meat, the meat, the meat, the meat, the meat. And he is like, what are you talking about? And I just keep pointing at the car and yelling, the meat, the meat, the meat, the meat. This is happening on a residential street in public. People are walking by on the sidewalk. I think one of the great things about big cities is nobody even really stopped to ask, like, what's happening? They just kind of keep going. Doesn't concern them. It doesn't really. But I'm just screaming the meat because there's bugs and the smell, and I'm thinking, how could you forget that, right? But I did. I mean, he did too, but like, I was the one who had sort of planned the meals and whatever, and I just was completely out of it. And Josh, I finally, like, he's like, why? What's happening? And I finally managed to say, we left a bag of meat in the car. And I get to watch his face go from concerned and puzzled, like, oh, my girlfriend's very upset. What's happening? Is there? And then I see it hit his face, and it just collapses into despair. Because now the car is a meat car, a rotting meat car that smells like rotting meat and is just flies everywhere. So he says, oh no. And then I say, we have to roll down all the windows and you have to drive the car around the block 3 times to try to get some of these flies out of the car, because I'm not getting back in the car until that happens. And he, being the love of my life and the sweetest person on earth, does that. It gets most of the flies out. And then we still ran our errand because we had to. Oh boy, the meat cart. So yeah, it smelled so bad, so bad. And then later that day, I had offered a friend of mine a ride, and she didn't have a car. And so I was like, oh, I'll just take you, don't worry about it. And I had to call her and try to explain what had happened. And she says, oh, don't worry, it's not a big deal. And I am trying to express to her, like, it is a big deal. It's going to be a big deal when you get in this car. She's like, nah, don't worry about it. And so I pick her up. And so I'm like, all right, fine. Meat car it is. So on our way back from the errand, the other thing that we did was we went to the grocery store and we bought like 25 or 30 packages of baking soda. And then just all throughout the car, like you would do in a refrigerator, just cracked open these like baking soda boxes and stuck them in the car. I tried to Febreze it. Febreze is not up to this task. Nothing is up to this task. This is not a thing that, like, you can't Google what to do if you leave a bag of rotting meat in your car for 2 weeks, because nobody does that, right? It's not a thing people are writing into advice columns about. I mean, probably someone's gonna be like, oh, I found this on Google, but like, it's not really a normal thing for most people. But I'm like, well, people put baking soda in their fridges so it's not stinky, so I guess we'll just put God's own butt ton of baking soda into this car. And so that's what we did. And I went and picked up my friend, and she was very kind about it. We went with the windows rolled down, and we were about 3/4 of the way there, and she was like, she was so kind about it too. She was just like, it is really bad though. It is bad. And I was like, it is bad though, right? It's bad. Oh my God, it's so bad. Ah, it was so bad. It was so bad. It was so bad. And so that's what happened. I had another friend who suggested we put, in case you ever find yourself in the situation where you have your own meat car, I hope that doesn't happen to you. But I mean, it could. We also put cups of coffee, like whole coffee beans in the car. She had read that could help with like smells. Really, because I was just like, oh my God, this car is gonna stink of death forever. But here's the thing, it didn't though. Like, it smelled bad for a long time, and it was bad, and I'm honestly, I'm like, for real. But eventually it started to dissipate. You know, we would leave the baking soda in the car, take it out, put more in. It took like almost a year. I'm not great with estimating time, so I could be like way off here, but in my memory it's like 8 months-ish or a little more, like not quite a year, but almost a year for the car to smell like normal, like a normal car again. And yeah, like I like my brain, right? I think ADHD gives me a lot of great abilities. It gives me the ability to like make connections, to think of things I wouldn't ever like think about normally. It gives me a lot of interest. I think, you know, when I love something, I love it a lot. You know, so I could be like, you're very excited, friend. I'm so excited. I love the thing. And that's fun, right? You know, it can be very charming. It can also give you a meat car. So it's, you know, it's definitely got its issues, but the moral of the meat car, if there's a moral, which might be check your groceries and see that you got them all. That's one. But the other thing is that, like, most things that you make a mistake on, some are not, like, even things that, like, seem really bad or you know, like they're not undoable. I mean, it couldn't undo that it happened, but it did eventually stop smelling that way. Like, it did eventually, it was okay in the end. And so I just want to, like, put that out there for people with, like, neurodiversity or other kinds of issues. Like, things happen, you know. At a certain point, like, you just kind of have to try to develop a sense of humor about it, because it's just like, I mean, who does that? I do that. I'm the one. So, you know, if you've had instances like that, I am with you, because these things can be just, you know, I mean, sometimes my brain is not interested in boring things. It's not interested in groceries. It's not interested in a lot of the things that I need to do to, like, you know, and so I have to kind of try to corral it into doing the things that I need to do so that I can, like, you know, be an adult and have a life and do these things that, like, you have to do. Like, so yeah, try not to be too hard on yourself, I guess, is the moral of the story. And, like, maybe one day you'll have an amazing meat car story to tell people. I mean, ADHD it's given me so much, but it's also caused me to be sued by Burger King. I mean, not all of Burger King, right? Like, just a Burger King. I wasn't sued by the corporation Burger King. I was sued by a branch of Burger King, like one restaurant. But yeah, I mean, it's not even a long story. It's basically like I screwed up my finances, which is a thing that can happen, especially if you have executive function problems like people with ADHD do. I messed up my bank account. Partly my fault, slightly the bank's fault too, but ended up in a situation where I bounced, oh God, it was in the 20s, 22 to 27 checks, maybe more, back, you know, back when people used to write checks. And my solution to that at the time was like 19, and my solution to that at the time was like, I guess people will call me if I owe them money. That's not the best way to solve that issue. If you have that issue, like, come see me on Twitter. I can walk you through what to do. It's not wait for people to call you. That's not really a problem solving, but that's what I did. And I ended up in a situation where I got, like, sued by multiple people or threatened with lawsuits, and was not able to have a bank account for like 5 years. That's like, I mean, it's embarrassing. I mean, is it embarrassing? I don't know. It is a little, but on the other hand, it's just like, that's what happened, you know, and I didn't have a lot of support, like, and I wasn't able, there's a lot of things that you have to do when you go from being like a minor child under your parents' care to being like a technical adult where you have to take care of your own stuff. And like, that can be a difficult transition for a lot of people, but like when you have executive function issues, people think that you know how to do things, or that it will be clear how to do things that, like, for me, not clear. So, I mean, I also almost failed out of college. Like, for a long time, people would be like, you should go to graduate school. And I was like, what I would say is some version of like, I don't really want to do any more school. You know, I'm not really like school. Like, I'm kind of done with school. But, like, I can't go to graduate school because my GPA for my bachelor's is pretty bad. I got the degree, but I had like a total executive function collapse in the middle of school and just was not able to do stuff and almost failed. So, you know, but like, here's the thing on those things. I have a bank account now. I was able to clean it up. It took a long time. I had to learn how to do things kind of my own way, which involved just being like really careful about stuff. If you guys are interested in like how I stay organized with bills and stuff or things like that, like you know, shoot me a comment and I'll be happy to do a video explaining that kind of stuff, because I do think that it's useful to walk people through like, how do you keep track of how much money you have, like, you know, to be careful so that you don't end up in a bad position. But like, you know, bad credit, I had bad credit for a long time. It happens. I had a meat car for a long time. That happens too. So it's not just you, like, if you're having these issues. And sometimes, like, when you are looking, if you look at somebody and you think, oh, that person's like so put together, you don't know if that person has a meat car in their past. They probably do. So don't judge yourself too harshly. All right? And like, really do check and make sure you've gotten all your groceries, because it's pretty key. All right. Bye.